right, let's talk about the Detroit Lions here for a little bit. Look, obviously, off to a very hot start. They look like one of the top contenders, not just in the NFC, but frankly, in the entire NFL. And there's a lot of things to like about the Lions, but it's what they've done in terms of smart moves, in terms of developing young players, riding them through some early lows to experience the highs that we're seeing right now out of Detroit. And we've got a great report from MLive.com highlighting one young defender in particular. Miles, if you want to throw up the report, I will read from it. All right, the Detroit Lions have 12 sacks through the last 2 weeks and are rocking one of the league's best run defenses through the first 4 games. And blossoming third-year linebacker Derek Barnes, one of those young defenders we're talking about, has played a vital role in the turnaround. Barnes has started all 4 games, playing career-high 60% of the defensive snaps. He has 22 tackles, including 2 for loss with 1 sack. Barnes has also dipped back into his pass rushing chops across the last 2 games. He has 4 pressures across 16 pass rushing reps in the last 2 dominating defensive showings against the Green Bay Packers and Atlanta Falcons. And as a Lions fans, I'm sure you're aware, Derek Barnes, his first 2 years in the NFL weren't particularly good, but he did get a lot of playing time. The coaches did stick with him. Turned out to be a really smart move, and that's what we've been talking about with the Lions. They do a lot of great moves in terms of acquisitions, contract structures, but they also develop the young guys. I think this is just another indicator of why they'll continue to get better and better in my eyes. I'm curious what your thoughts are about this, but before I hand it over to you, Lions fans, look, you got a game against the Carolina Panthers coming up. Not great on paper, obviously, but they do have some veteran talents. Frank Reich is a veteran coach. Don't want to overlook anybody in the NFL. So give us your prediction, Lions versus Panthers, in the comment section below. But all right, Miles, I'll throw it back over to you now. What are your thoughts on just everything the Lions are doing with their defense, guys like Barnes, and just all the smart moves they made when it comes to developing these young players?
Yeah, Nick, I think it's a really smart move and shows how successful the Lions have been in the past. We take a look at a rundown of the couple linebackers they've gotten through the last couple of years. You've got Anzalone, who came in 2021. Once again, Anzalone, terrible, a 35 PFF grade. He's gone up every single year. This year, he has his best grade so far. He's 66.7 this season. So that's a guy, a linebacker in the Lions system that showed he has been very, very good. Malcolm Rodriguez, a guy who came in last year, 6th-round pick. 62.8 grade last year. He was the star of this Lions defense, the one that everybody was talking about through Hard Knocks and all that thing. Everybody seemed to like him. Jack Campbell, the guy they drafted this year, looks like a promising young start to his career. Could be a guy, but this just shows the Lions know how to pick guys. They know how to stick with them and develop them, and that is what is going on with Barnes. They got a guy, they picked them. Like you said, he flat out stunk his first season. I think he had a 30 PFF grade, which is pretty terrible. He's gone up every single season since then. And now in his 3rd year here with the Lions, he's showing that he's a very good player. Great in run defense, 76.8 run defense grade. He's been great in pass rush as well. I think those are the 2 places that he shines the most. And this guy, this is what you want, Nick. A guy, a 4th-round pick, become a solid contributor on your team. That's about all you can ask out of a 4th-round pick, wouldn't you say?
Oh, especially, and I think you got to give a lot of credit to Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell, the entire Lions coaching staff, because you brought up the fact that some of these guys, and specifically talking about Barnes, they stunk. That 30 PFF grade, I mean, that is absolutely god-awful, atrocious. His 2nd year, though, big improvement, 62.3. This year, I think overall he's grading out at a 71. For people who aren't familiar with those grades, anything in the high 60s, low 70s is considered a solid player. Once you get into the high 70s, low 80s, that's considered Pro Bowl caliber. So you've got a guy, again, who you stuck with, who came out as a rookie, was terrible, got a little bit better his 2nd year. Now he's breaking out. This is one of these quiet, under-the-radar reasons why the Lions are one of the top teams in the NFL right now. We know Jared Goff with the offensive coordinator, that relationship. We know stars like Amon-Ra St. Brown. We know rookies like Sam Laporta and Aiden Hutchinson in his 2nd year are balling out. We know all these big names have done a lot of great things, and they're carrying the team. But you brought up a great point. It's the mid-round guys that aren't getting all the publicity that are playing good. They're playing solid football. And this was after some atrocious beginnings to their careers. And that's where you have to give, I think all the credit has to go to Dan Campbell, right? He's the guy. He's the motivator. He knows that if they stick to their plan, it will work out. And he's had the guts, and he had some bad publicity. A lot of people were critical of Dan Campbell, certainly his early time with the Detroit Lions. But I tell you what, Mize, I mean, there can't be a guy in football who's better at developing players than Dan Campbell right now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's really great. And the point that you brought up about just how many times, Nick, do you see somebody come in and immediately you see, like, I'm just thinking of things off the top of my head. Bryce Young has struggled a little bit in certain games, and people are like, well, is this the right pick? Is this something we should do? It's been 1 year. It hasn't even been 5 games yet. and people are so quick to move on from somebody. Nonetheless, a guy like Barnes has an entire season where he's horrible, his very first season. A lot of teams would be like, look, this guy, he doesn't fit our system. He isn't working out. They move on from him. But I think there's something to be said here. You gotta let guys develop and they can become very solid players. Like we said, Barnes grading out 71.1. That is a solid starter in the NFL PFF grade. This guy could be a middle linebacker for your team for years to come and just be somebody you don't really have to worry about. Just a solid player. Now, it's not a superstar. It's not Bobby Wagner level play, but this guy's a 4th round pick and you developed him. He got there. If you can keep hitting on stuff like that and developing guys and getting them there, not a lot of teams do that, Nick. And I think that's why this Lions team is different than so many other teams in the NFL.